Who's there?
Recording now.
All right. Welcome everyone to the April 15th, 2021 Buildings, Facilities, and Capitals Expenditures Committee meeting. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thanks, everyone. So we have a fairly short agenda. I've put all our past meeting minutes on there. The recording secretary is she's actually a town employee as well, so she's doing this at her best rate. She's got 3 of them for us tonight. If it's okay with the committee, can we just pass over the meeting minutes and just go right, take things out of order and just go into the remaining warrant article? Is that okay? Okay.
Sure.
So Fred, you want to give an update on that last?
Sure. After our last meeting, or after last week, had the opportunity to have conversation with the technical folks over at the high school. Actually got the representative from Siemens on the phone. And how do I say it? The district, it needs a whole system, not just the fire panel itself. And it was mentioned last night that I guess we've been in sort of the situation since 2013. I did not realize that. But instead of coming to you folks and asking just for the fire panel and then being back next year and asking for the smoke heads and the rest of the project, it was determined the best thing to do is come back once with everything. We'll roll the dice one more year. Hopefully the panel doesn't expire on us and go from there. Because otherwise, if we replace the panel and then one of the smoke heads goes, now you've got to isolate that loop. You cannot get another smoke head. They're just simply not available. They haven't been manufactured in over 10 years. So we'd be digging ourselves in deeper and deeper. We're better off to put one project together, put it out to bid at one time, and get the best bang for our buck at that point in time. So we will be back on it for next year, but as of now, we're asking that it get passed over.
Okay. Do we need to take a vote to pass over? I think I asked this last time. I think we, Lincoln, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I actually, unless Fred feels strongly otherwise, there's going to be a new version of the draft warrant, and I just assume remove it completely.
Perfect.
Unless you good.
Providing the language that we sent, asking that it be passed, I would say it's the same net result, so I can't see why.
I don't see any reason to spend time on it at town meeting if the school committee doesn't want it anymore. So I'm just going to remove it.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Okay. So that's it for our warrant articles. Everything is voted in terms of capital. I'm not sure, Fred or Lincoln, do you want to discuss the effect of the new voted assessment to the budget? Maybe that'd be Lincoln's.
Yeah, I'm happy to get into that a little bit. So, so certainly I think, it's appreciated. Last night there was movement in the school committee to reduce the assessment by an amount that will allow for us to robustly pursue the capital plan that we want at this year's town meeting. So, with that combined with the fire panel coming off, we do have sufficient free cash to pursue the entirety of the requested capital plan. I should note one other piece is that at this week's the feasibility study for the new Department of Public Works building is still outstanding, and went and spoke with the Public Works Commissioners meeting on this Tuesday prior to the Board of Selectmen Finance Committee meeting. about several different issues, including, while they did not take a vote, the consensus of the committee there was that they realized, perhaps is the best way to say it, that it wasn't quite time to pursue that. And that the consensus was that, they were fine with taking it off the warrant at the moment. So that's what I intend to do. Obviously, what the warrant is up to the Board of Selectmen, but the next draft warrant, from my recommendation, will not include that article. So with all that, that means that we have sufficient free cash to pursue our capital plan, which is great. So,
That is good.
and I should say, there's still a $123,721 in free cash that, under my recommended budget, would go to help balance the operating budget.
Okay. Okay, so Lincoln, do you want to add anything in regards to a town administrator update or report?
No, I think that's the biggest report for this week. The Board of Selectmen will be considering, as I mentioned, the further draft warrant, and also on Tuesday be considering when and where town meeting is. So stay tuned on that.
Okay. Fred, go ahead.
And I don't know if Lincoln wants to make this as part of his report. I don't know how the agenda exactly operates, but we did have the opportunity at the district to meet with the MSBA yesterday.
Oh, sure.
And they voted to proceed our project to the next level. There were 3 projects that they voted on. Ours was one of them, to go to the next level, which is feasibility study. So that's all very, very good news. We'll be meeting with our Whitman Middle School Building Committee in the very near future. I believe it's the 26th is our meeting. At that point in time, we'll be discussing, or hopefully setting up at that point, a owner's project manager search committee. That would be one of the next steps that we'll take. We'll then do a request for services. We will have our selected owner's project manager and present them to MSBA. And that would be our next steps that we'll take. And MSBA actually is the one that chooses our project manager, but we get to present them with, I believe, the top candidate or the top few candidates to make the choice from. So they control things a little bit, but they're writing a check too. So that works as well. And I don't know that I missed anything great there. I think that's pretty much the nutshell of everything.
That was a good summary. Yep.
I think that was great. And actually, one other thing I just want to mention is, I think, thank you, Don, for and working with the whole committee and, with Fred about, having some pointed, but I think very fair questions about the fire panel issue. And, I think point well taken. And thank you for bringing those issues up, and I'm glad the school committee, and thank you, Fred, for, addressing them and responding to them. So that's all. I want to say give credit where it's due there. Thank you, Don.
That's what we're here for.
That's right.
Hey, can I ask one question? And this is just for my non-knowledge. After the feasibility study, Fred, you've been through this before with the high school. What's the next step after that? I don't know what the steps are. So what would
design? There would be a design architect that will work with the owner's project manager. And as it was stated in the meeting yesterday, there's 2 designs that they'll be considering. One is the 5 through 8 and the other is the 6 through 8. So they'll be considering both. So we may talk about materials, we may talk budget. For instance, I know when we did the high school, when we were at this stage, so to speak, we switched the type of concrete block that we were using. I think it's a gorgeous looking concrete block that we have, but they were going to utilize something different that was a lot more money. So there were little things that the architect worked with us, on how we could save. So, but that'll be the next step, would be the architect, and we'll get design. That's when we're gonna need everyone's input, so to speak, as much as possible. Josh, I'm hoping that we have you on the committee at that point in time, to supplement the technology aspect. We do have someone from the schools, but, why not have someone who has your knowledge as well, to make it a better project, so to speak. And see what happens from there.
Thank you.
But then the other thing, just for a time frame, from the design aspect of things, it's a 24 to 30 month period. And then once that's done, if we end up all green light and we end up, either renovation or replacement, it's probably another 24, 30 month type project, to completion. So we are talking a good 4 or 5 years from now, before anything will be all done, so to speak.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Fred.
And
Go ahead, Lincoln.
If I could, just to add, just to piggyback on that, I mean, I think the other thing is also discussion and timing about, once this feasibility is done, at what is the timing that the town wants to pursue as far as a debt exclusion override for whatever that amount is, so it may not be that, town meeting wants to, at its next town meeting, pursue a debt override for whatever is identified, but it just pointing that out, that there's a process that we're going to be going through here for several years, no doubt. So.
Okay. Any other questions on that? All right. So just in regards to a finance committee chairman's report, I don't typically like to inject other our partner towns decisions in meetings for this town, but I did happen to watch the Hanson Board of Selectmen's meeting where they did they're facing a budget shortfall in an override ballot question, a town vote in that town meeting vote, then potentially a ballot question. And so the issue that they're having, that some Board of Selectmen have expressed, is the recommendation of spending on capital without knowing if the override is going to pass or not, because if the override doesn't pass, there's significant cuts. So they're weighing their issues between personnel cuts and capital cuts. So their decision was to pass over. And the reason I mentioned that is the reason they passed over a lot of capital items. One of those capital items is the high school phone system. They had some additional funds that were needed to get to the amount requested. They decided to pass that number over. So I guess that's going to be it's always an evolving thing when you're involving the district spending, because I guess we're in the boat that they were in last time, because they had passed it initially. They had passed it initially, and town of Whitman didn't either passed over or didn't approve it. So it's going to be one of those projects that it stays in the air for a little bit. Go ahead, Fred.
And that could change with them. If they were override successful, they can call a special town meeting very quickly, to address anything to do with their free cash, or they could do it in the fall when their FY21, and if I make a mistake here, Lincoln, please let me know, but their FY21 monies, once free cash is certified, if they have any money left over, they could theoretically be spending that as well. I don't know if there's a contingency plan, or if there's a way to do the articles, or just put them right through and see.
This is getting kind of deep into the weeds, but just to clarify that a little bit, so the free cash is certified each year and it's available for appropriation until June 30th. And so if they had another special town meeting immediately in June, say, or late May, then yes, they could spend their free cash. If they didn't, the free cash certification expires June 30, and they'd have to wait for their next free cash certification whenever that happens in the fall or the winter, whenever DOR does it, until they could spend free cash again. So that's pretty far into the weeds, but just FYI.
Josh, go ahead.
Yeah, just based on the information, I mean, there's a lot of variables involved, but I think the project has to go out to bid anyways. And based on, that information, the additional money may be mute at that point if in fact the bids come in lower than what they had requested. And based on the discussions that are still going on as far as the systems are concerned, the numbers may in fact, like I said, be lower. So it's hard to say whether that additional money is going to be necessary, based on the bidding process.
Okay, so that's a good point. So if town of Whitman passes it, there could be enough money encumbered for the school to move forward. Is I guess what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it really all depends on again what the bids come back at, and if the bids come back lower, then we could be less money on Whitman and less money on Hanson, so Hanson doesn't have to come up with that additional money. So again, it's kind of up in the air at the moment, but I don't see a need to sort of stop the process necessarily. Because you don't have to accept the bids, I guess. I mean, if you go out to bid for something and, it's not like you gotta, correct me if I'm wrong, Lincoln, but I don't think you have to accept them.
No, you definitely, the governmental entity in Massachusetts can reject bids at any time for any reason.
So.
All right.
As long as they don't write the bid wrong, which I'm sure the schools won't.
We never make a mistake.
That's right.
All right. So before we get into meeting minutes, does anybody have question, comments, concerns on any capital articles to date, or any capital articles to date? All right. So putting that aside, bear with me. I'm just going to try to bring up this document. And the first one that we have I think January 7th is in chronological order. February 4th. January 21. Sorry. All right, January 7th. So just one minor editing issue here. The recording secretary did not use the same format, so I'm just gonna, once we're done here, I'm just in the format being that it's there's a header difference in the header, and the pages are numbered, so that's the only difference. So when we're done here with if we vote to recommend vote the meeting minutes in, that's the only change that we won't have. That's an additional change that we'll have. Okay. So here we are, January 7th, page 1.
Are you sharing that, Dave?
No, I can't share on my end.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I wasn't sure if you were sharing it or not.
No. Do you need it to be shared?
No, I just wasn't sure if you were planning to bring it up.
Okay. No. Okay. So January 7th, page 1. Let's see, any questions, comments, concerns, changes on that? And please speak up because I can't see everyone.
On the bottom of the page, we could add, ductile to iron pipe, just to be more specific.
The wood stumped in a small street, manhole, Bronson, post main that's put in, iron ductile. Ductile?
Correct.
All right, and it's Mr. Cleary, not Mr. Clancy, correct?
Yes.
Select, yeah, correct.
Cleary. Okay, any other comments on page 1? Okay, moving over to page 2. Environmental partners, capitalized.
That large paragraph that begins, Mr. Evans asked, it should be cathodically protected, not just protected. It's a corrosion. Do you want me to send that in the chat?
External cathodic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looks like Mr. Cleary's name's got to be spelled all throughout the document too as Clancy.
All right, let me see if I can do a quick change on it. Clancy. Place. All right, yeah, there's 22 changes there. Replace. There we go. All right, so going back to page 2. All right, so that change is made. Any further questions, comments, concerns, changes on page 2? Okay, page 3 starts with, continues with that long paragraph. Mr. Galvin says there's no way to phase in. Any other questions, comments, concerns on page? That page? So Mr. Smith says that they have been so boring. So moving on to the next page, starts with on the previous page, Mr. Smith says that there have been soil borings to identify where the corrosive soils are. $16 million project. Mr. Cleary, Mr. McNeil, expend. Just a removal of a dollar sign at the $16 million.
So that
Says yes, they're inspectors, quality control. This encourages that we have post-bond insurance.
more $16 million signs.
And she does that throughout for the 16 million.
Oh boy, all right, let's see.
We know it's a lot of money, but
Place with this one. Okay, yeah, there's 7 of those. Okay, look at that. Moving on to the, so there's a recommendation for the water and sewer project to move forward. That was motion by Mr. Small, seconded by Mr. Curran. Discussion on the next page. Just about 15 million, and I'll put a dollar sign on that in the last paragraph there. 15 million. Under 15 million, say 16. So there's kind of abbreviated numbers here, but I'll just 15 million, 16 million dollar signs. Okay. 14.8 million. Environmental partners, capitalized. All right, moving on to the next page. Small withdrew his original motion. Mr. Curran seconded the withdrawal. Restatement, 16 million. I'll put a small m at million. boy. There's a lot of them. All right, any other questions, comments, concerns on that one, that page? I'm gonna try to keep it consistent and keep the million lowercase, but there just seems to be so many of them.
Yeah, there's quite a few.
Just remove some spaces at a sentence that starts with Mr. Smith. We did get a company in there, so towards the end of that paragraph, there's some their issues. So we did get a company in THEIR. Right, that's right. That's the right there, right? No, and we did get a company.
ERE for that.
ERE, yeah,
Oh.
ERE.
I was looking at the other sentence. And then if you go a few more sentences down, just to give a release that their services, THEIR. Right now, including the money that was already appropriated. CAD drawings, further discussions, restates the motion to approve up to and change and to and. And this the vote. Thank you. So going to the next page. Let's come back in. Nothing to add. Here, Av. I don't see anything on that. Any other questions or comments, concern on that page? Next page starts with the end of the year, so it stays in limbo for the remainder. There's a little space in there. Small things, 15,000 earnings. Just a small, makes a motion for the third option of table until we decide language. Further discussion, roll call vote. Unanimous vote to table until next meeting. Finance Committee sub-report, next page.
Which page you on?
Don't know. Starts with in bold letters, Finance Committee sub-report.
Okay, yeah. Is there a space in the double space there before Miss Green? And that sentence Miss Green states she believes.
Yep, got it. Yeah, removing some extra spaces here.
Yeah, another double space where this is the document.
Yeah.
And maybe a triple space down by midway down the document will help getting everyone thinking.
Yep, got it. Towards the end, let's see, Mr. Cadero says it's a jumping off point. He hopes to get into a more formal process that adheres to Article 18 of 2015, the established commit that established the committee instead of the. And he thinks that it could be instead of ebb. A way of doing it. It would not be utilized until next fiscal year, not fiscal year. That's cool. Mr. McNeil suggests using PDF editor. Fiscal year 2020 capital requests. Communication is none. Fiscal year, not physical. 21 projects. Any updates? Going on to the next page. Liaison reports revisited. Just a typo with that. Was
Above that, there's a what looks like it should be a so is in Oz.
Where is that? Where do you see that, Justin?
It is Mr. Cadero states the committee would want to have all the recommendations together for the town meeting warrant available to them prior to this meeting, so they can ask question. Yeah.
All right. Motion to adjourn, seconded. Meeting adjourned. All right. So I'll entertain a motion for the meeting minutes to be, I'll entertain a motion. Nice,
So
sorry,
moved.
Fred, and your motion is to accept as,
Except as read by and changed by you.
okay, seconded,
Second,
seconded by Justin, roll call vote. Don? Pass over Don for a second. Fred?
Yes, yes.
Don? Fred?
Sorry about that.
Yes.
That's all right. Josh?
Yes.
Justin Evans?
yes.
Justin Kavanaugh Davis?
Abstain.
Abstain, thank you. David, yes. Bob Curran?
Yes.
Lincoln?
Abstain, since I was also not on the committee at that time. Thank you.
Abstain. Aaron?
Yes.
Yes, so that's a 1, 2, 6, 0, 2. All right, let me just save this. Final. Okay. That brings us to 121. Let's see if I get that one up. Okay, here we go. All right. Attendance, Dave, Justin, Fred, Aaron, Don, Lincoln, and Ernie Sandlin.
You can eliminate Lincoln from that. He wasn't hired yet.
Thank you, Justin.
No problem.
He's in back pay. And public forum meetings. So first page, any questions, comments, concerns, changes? How do you spell Lytle? Is Lytle, L-Y-T-L-E?
ELE.
Lytle.
L-E, yeah. Oh. Automatic change it. T-L-E. Stay. All right. Going on to capital request from the school, Mr. Sandland. Moving on to the next page. Subcommittee reports continued. Capital request from school, Mr. Sandland. Up there. Moving on to the next. Anything on that page? Seeing that, we'll move on. Duval chairlift is the start of the next page. Ramp. Resurface since structural issues. Going down to 2021 approved capital items within middle school. I'll just capitalize middle. Don Essen. Final numbers. Going on to the next page, old business. Research change weather to weather. EHDER. Or not a virtual town meeting is feasible. School force main project. A lot there. They didn't, about 3/4 of the way down, they did discuss raising the sewer rates prior to the project, not to the full $3 increase that anticipated. Okay, yes, I think the percentage increase was going to be about $3 per unit. Moving on. Next page, the pipe is in the city of Brockton. Motion, next page, motion to adjourn, motion seconded, roll call vote. Any further questions, comments, concerns on that? Again, speak up because I can't see everyone. All right, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved to accept as written and read and corrected.
Thank you, Fred.
Second,
Seconded by Justin Evans, roll call vote. Aaron,
Yes.
Lincoln,
Abstain, thank you.
thank you. Bob,
Yes.
Dave, yes. Josh,
Yes.
Justin Evans,
Yes.
Justin Casanova Davis,
Abstain.
Fred,
Yes.
and Don.
Yes.
All right, 602. Be with me when I say this. Save. All right, so that leads us to our last one, which is, excuse me, February 4th, 2021. 5 p.m. Attendance was Dave Cordero, Don Essen, Fritz Small.
You gotta correct Ken's name.
Okay, Bob Curran, Justin Evans. Lytle must be an autocorrect. Lytle. Okay.
MSBA in the second paragraph.
It's not MSPA?
They're not going to help us very much. And Allison Sullivan's name is spelled with a Y. 2 locations for that.
Yep.
Dave, was this sent along with the other 2 meeting minutes?
This was yes. There's an email with 3, and then an email with 1.
I got an email with 3 and then an email with 2. But
I've got the email with 2 that I'm on right now.
yeah, and then there was a second email that was sent shortly after. Well, actually, it was sent on Wednesday at 2:36. It looks like.
Okay.
The one with 2 had the 2 Januaries, I think.
Yes. Yep. Exactly. And that was sent on Tuesday at 10:32, and then the one for Wednesday was sent at 2:36, and that had 3 of them.
Correct.
I don't have the one Wednesday at 2:36.
You were on there. It looks like. Just confirm your email address. Yeah, it looks like you were on there.
Not to be too much of a pedant, but Allison is A-L-1-L, A-L-Y-S-O-N.
Yep. Got it.
See if I deleted it by accident.
Okay.
We can always
So-
resend it too.
Did you? You just reset it?
No, we can resend. I can resend it if you want to.
Yeah, can you, Josh, please?
Yeah, sure. I'll forward it.
And actually, I'm sorry, it's a little bit of an aside, but since we're going through that with the minutes, just so the committee's aware, Fred and I actually had a conversation earlier today about it, which is that clawback period is now even longer regarding the MSBA, perhaps out until fiscal year 2030, regarding the Duval roof. So certainly gonna have a conversation with the superintendent about it, but my intention at this moment would be to propose that we leave a not insignificant chunk of money in there for intermediate repairs to the Duval roof in the ensuing years, and then put the rest of that money to work, probably about $400,000, to instead fund the school's capital program this year. So rather than have the money sit not unused for perhaps 8, 9, maybe longer years, depending on where that clawback period goes, put it to use in the interim when times are tight. So,
Mr. Curran,
Yes.
you were part of, you looked at when the engineer sort of tore apart the EFA system.
Yes.
Can we, is it reasonable we could expect hopefully to get another 9 years by doing patchwork until we have to do the entire project?
Yeah, I think that the original proposal the engineer had come up with was to remove and replace all the windows that were affected. So the bottom line is the roof isn't really a problem there. It's the sidewall of the building. So the ephes is sitting over, it's butted up against the windows. The flashing that's behind the ephes and then goes down onto the roof was what was apparently put in wrong. So there is some temporary repairs we can make. We may have to go back and address it once or twice a year to silicone around those windows to help keep water from infiltrating. But my feeling was this was an awful expensive fix for a fairly small problem. So I think the question is, can we live without these repairs? My belief is yes.
Okay, well, that's even better.
Bob, I know I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, but ballpark, when you're talking about the minor repairs year to year, do you have an idea ballpark what that cost might be?
Well, usually when you do a roof or any sidewall, you want to put a flashing system in that doesn't require any maintenance ever unless it's been replaced.
Okay.
The last thing you want to do is to put caulking on it or roof tar or something like that. So the issue has been in the past, the major leaks that would happen was because of ice dams. And it depends on the way the wind is blowing, the rain is blowing after a snowstorm. And then they had come up with a remedy for that. And I think they actually invented something to put in the ceiling to funnel the water that was leaking in the roof into pails and all that. So I think if they just look after the roof, any shingle repairs are fairly inexpensive. But if they look at the windows a couple of times a year and use a good silicone caulking where they think that the water may be getting in, I think that will be sufficient. The other part of this that I don't know if this whole committee knows is that we went way over what we had put aside. And then we were going to do it in two separate phases. And the windows were nearly impossible to get because everybody was so busy.
Right.
So my feeling is right now is watch over it. Anytime there's any leaks at all, they probably ought to get somebody, and in fact, I will be happy to do it, from this committee over there to look at it and make recommendations from there. And of course, we don't want to have water into the building and have the kids be somehow not safe. But my feeling is it's a small amount of water because of the ephes system, and the other problems were just from wind blowing it uphill at the shingles at the base.
So even if we spent $5,000 to $10,000 annually on a maintenance program specifically for this, I mean, to me, that would be the way to go.
If we decide to scratch the project altogether and look at it again in sometime in the future and use the money for capital items, that'd be great. And then what we can do is look at it for another, maybe a shorter term fix rather than take out all the windows and remove all the ephes. But I'd be happy to get commercial roofers involved outside of an engineer to give their recommendations. But I think we need to see it when there's some issues.
Okay. And of course, we get Ernie involved.
Yeah, and hopefully Ernie will be back and we can go over all that. But I'd be happy to meet with him and talk about exactly what he thinks we should do if we avoid going through this whole big project to fix it.
Okay, and I mean, as the landlord, so to speak, I think it's the town's, it's the town's responsibility to pay for the repairs, and should be the town's responsibility to also, come up with the plan as well, I would think. Sound reasonable?
Yeah, my feeling is the windows, they were gonna replace the windows simply because they were taking them out. I don't necessarily agree with that.
Okay, all right, perfect. So Lincoln, there's your answer if you want to.
We just funded the school's capital program. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Can we put the fire pit back? No, I'm only joking.
Not
you
even
call
go
Jeff
there,
in the
Fred.
morning,
Let's
please?
not even go there.
All right, so getting back to the meeting minutes. Let's see. Start
So
page 2. Prices, reset DPW updates, COVID issues.
Says that you brought me up to speed on the 2 generators. Is there a note that I arrived late somewhere?
It is not. How do you, what do you feel that you came in before the Duval school roof discussion?
I don't remember you ever being late to a meeting.
I had a class this day. It was a training for work.
Okay.
And I think we started at 5 instead of 5:30.
It's that chair doing that to you.
Justin, where do you feel that you came in at the Duval school discussion, before or after?
I don't remember the Duval school discussions, so you can be before the annual report.
How about the well, the annual reports after the Duval school rush discussions, right?
Mr. Chair, would you?
Go ahead.
I don't know if we want to try and peg a time, or if you'd prefer a motion to pass over and then we can
Revisit the video and figure it out.
Exactly.
That's a
Exactly.
good idea.
That makes more sense.
I think that's the only other thing I noted. Oh yeah, the minutes end shortly after that.
All right, before we entertain that motion, does anyone have any further questions, comments, concerns, changes on these meeting minutes? Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to
So
pass
moved to pass over.
Fred Small, seconded.
Second,
Justin Evans, roll call vote. Don,
Yes.
Fred,
Yes.
Josh,
Yes.
Justin Evans,
yes.
Justin Casanova Davis.
Abstain.
Abstain. David, yes. Bob Curran,
Yes.
Lincoln,
Yes.
abstain.
Well, we're just passing over, so
Okay.
I was just gonna say yes, but
We'll take
I'll
a yes.
abstain when they come back. Thank you.
All right, and then Aaron.
Yeah.
All right, so that was a 7-1-1 to pass it. Okay, all right. Save this. Save. Okay, so that's those three so far. And then another email went out.
Aren't those the same minutes?
Are they the same minutes?
Yeah, 1/7 and 1/21.
Yes.
All right, good.
Yeah.
I didn't look at them that closely. All right, so that's all our business for today, unless anyone has anything else. All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to convene.
Adjourn, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Seconded by Josh McNeil.
Yep.
Roll call vote. Justin Evans,
Yes.
Justin Casanova Davis,
Yes.
Josh,
Yes.
Fred,
Yes.
Don,
Yes.
Dave. Yes, Bob, sorry, Bob.
Yes.
Lincoln,
Yes.
Aaron.
Yes.
All right, celebration.
Have a good
Perfect.
vacation.
All right,
Josh.
gentlemen.
Have a great night, everyone.
Everyone.